The Oscars were the other day.
The Oscars happened. Hulu was great. We all love Hulu.
Oh yeah.
They didn't shit their pants at all when it came to broadcasting the Oscars.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a pretty, I mean, other than that, other than people dealing with like streamers, I feel like it was a pretty like normal Oscars ceremony. I feel like usually there's some sort of controversy that will happen. There will be something that like, oh my God, can you believe that this happened? Like, I mean, I'm thinking of like, oh, they read La La Land instead of Moonlight, or more recently, you know, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, or even like an upset that I think people were like mad about. Like Amelia Perez didn't win anything, you know, like a movie that's like kind of mired in controversy.
I think, well, with the more recent way that the tide has shifted on that, it would have been more of an upset if it did win more stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like the two that it did win were kind of just like those were the safe bets to where the Academy could still be like, yes, okay, you still get some awards, and those are like the non-controversial ones because it's like, yeah, it's a musical, so give it best song, and yeah, everybody seems to like Zoe Saldana still, so give her the award for that. And
yeah. Maybe Adrian Brody's speech. I think maybe that's the one that I've seen a few kind of headlines about. He like broke the record for the longest acceptance speech.
I saw that, yeah.
And it's like, I think I would be more like forgiving if he said anything of substance.
If he made any point, yeah.
But it's like he's like rambling on in this speech, and then the music starts coming up, and he does that thing where he's like, hey, stop the music. He's like, this isn't my first rodeo.
Yeah.
He's like, you know, I've done this before. And then you're like, okay, like you better have something good to say. And he's just like, we're really divided as a country, and we really need to come together. And I'm like, wow, incredible insight, Adrian Brody. I never would have thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Just like, I like Adrian Brody, but he seems like the poster child for like dumb actors, like out of touch dumb guys that are like, you're good at this one very specific thing, but in terms of like analyzing the world, like you've been so far removed from that you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If we all just loved each other, I think things would be a lot better.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That is the big, my big issue with that is that it was just so boring and just nothing. And then like you said, like if you're gonna stop the music, you can't. I'm pretty sure he's like, stop the music. He's like, I'm wrapping up, I'm gonna wrap up, and then
3 more minutes.
It was like 3 more minutes, and there was plenty of like 5-second pauses where he's just like standing there, like
the fact that he like had to collect himself to like say that is hilarious.
Yeah. To say like nothing at all. Sean Baker tied / broke a record for most Oscars won in a single night, because
oh really?
I guess the only other person because he won 4 for writing, editing, directing,
and I mean best
and
picture?
Then I guess producer. He was probably a producer. Yeah. So yeah, picture, because picture goes to the producers. So I think so. He's also a producer. And the only other person to win 4 in one night was Walt Disney. But those are for like multiple like movies or whatever. So he's like he technically tied with him for most won in a single night, but he's the first person to win that many for a single movie.
That's
because
crazy.
Usually if you're like, you know, Martin Scorsese has won like picture and director, but he doesn't edit his own movies, or somebody else writes them or something like that. So it's like the fact that like it was all him. And then even it was like Bong Joon-ho would have had that or tied it or beat it, but because Parasite won international feature. But I didn't really know this, but international feature goes to the country. It doesn't go to like the director or the filmmakers. It's like the country's Oscar. Isn't that weird?
Oh. So it's they like paraded around town in like South Korea.
Yeah. So Bong Joon-ho, I think, accepted that award, but he did not receive that one. But he did like write and direct, and he got awards for that and stuff. And so yeah, nothing scandalous, but there was some kind of made some history for better and for worse, I guess.
Yeah, true. And it is very funny that the Hulu stream did cut out during Sean Baker's Best Director acceptance speech, which if you watch it later, his Best Director speech is a prepared speech about how important seeing things in theaters is and how more directors should make things for the big screen and not just the small screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then the streaming service cut out. It was just a very painfully ironic time for that to happen.
Yeah. I meant to bring that up too. That's like a much better, because I watched all the speeches that we missed after when they were on YouTube or whatever, which was just him, Mikey for actress, and then that winning for Best Picture. I'm like, that's what you need to do instead of like a 6-minute like rambling nonsense. Is just a little prepared thing where he's like, I'm gonna do a little call to action for this thing that I feel passionately about, and it's like 2 minutes long, and that's it. And
yeah, I just the comparisons of the two is hilarious, because I think even with Adrian Brody's, he's like, first, I'd like to thank God. And
that was like, so fucking corny.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, it's so self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Where like, I don't know. It's like Adrian Brody's is like, look at me. This is the thing that I won. And Sean Baker's like, this industry is dying and we need to save it. And I don't know, just like the two could not be like further apart in terms of like tone and message.
Yeah.
I still think they should have played the Rasta clip from SNL with Adrian Brody.
Or what's Flirty Harry was the one
I did see some people on Twitter posting like, this guy has an Academy Award now, and it's it was like, go ahead, make me gay.
Make me gay. Yeah, it was good shit. Yeah, I was mostly happy with it. It would, in a way, it would have been nice to see The Substance win some more stuff. I don't know where, but yeah, Anora was my favorite of all the ones I saw. The only one I didn't get a chance to see was A Complete Unknown, but I can't see that one. I'm pretty sure I know how I feel about that movie. It doesn't seem like it does anything.
Do you like Bob Dylan?
Special. I think he's written some great songs that other people have performed pretty well.
Yeah.
I cannot stand his performing of his own music.
There's a handful of his songs that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
Like
I like Times Are Changing. That one's fine. Yeah.
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 I mean, The Man in Me, that plays like the beginning of The Big Lebowski.
I couldn't pull that. I don't know.
It's
I've seen the movie, but the man inside me.
Yeah, exactly. And then oddly enough, there's like a Bob Dylan, like one of his Christian albums. He had a Christian phase. I don't know if you knew about this in like, I want to say like late 70s or something like that, where he produced an album, and Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits was like one of the executive producers on it, and like plays on it. And there's a song called You Have to Serve Somebody, which is like Jesus. But it's kind of like this grimy, funky song, and like Mark Knopfler's guitar is all over it. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is kind of cool. It's a very like constrained Bob Dylan, where he's not like, hey, it's not like that type of shit.
Yeah. Like he's a singing like he's doing a used car commercial, like
Yeah.
come on down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, my disinterest in the movie is not directed at him specifically. It's more just that it just looks like every other music biopic ever.
Yeah.
It looks like exactly the movie that like Walk Hard was making fun of. So
that, yeah. Did you see Timothée Chalamet's speech that he gave at the SAG Awards? There was some awards show where he won for this movie.
It was that one, because I feel like Adrian Brody won like every other one.
But apparently he's like, I want to be one of the greats. I want to do great things. And I can't really fault him for that.
Yeah.
To like be like that honest about it. Like instead of having like the fake humility, fake humbleness or whatever, he's just like, no, I want to be good at this.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I appreciated that.
Yeah, I did too. I guess some people were kind of like had the opposite reaction where they thought that was really like douchey or whatever, but it's like he's not saying he is one of the greats. He says that like he wants to be, you know.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty fair.
Yeah. Especially in a time where, again, I feel like I've said it on this show before, but it's like the bona fide movie star is like kind of a rare thing these days, where we're kind of aging out of them, like the Brad Pitts, the Tom Cruises.
Yeah.
Like what's the new one?
Yeah.
If he wants to fill that role, then more power to him.
He's one coming up. I think he's a little bit older, but like I think of like Glenn Powell as like a more recent guy who's kind of like he's got that leading man, kind of like old school leading man vibe to him.
He's got a leading man's jaw and like the charm and charisma where like he can play like the dramatic stuff, but he can do like the physical comedy and like the chameleon type roles. Yeah,
literally, because he's in that I don't know if you've seen it or heard of it, but there's a Linklater movie from like last year, the year before, called Hitman that he's in. It's pretty good. And that's literally about him, like he's like an undercover like cop sort of thing. So he's like plays like a different character, like he plays like a bunch of different like disguised characters, kind of a master of disguise sort of thing. So I like that's when you said chameleon, I was like, yeah, like literally like in that movie. Oh, and overall, it's just I was so happy that Emilia Perez did like not again. It got the couple that was kind of a given, but it was so nice that like it played out so nice. It was like a movie that I really liked, got all the awards. And then that one didn't get anything.
Because
or Wicked.
if it had won, it would have been like another Crash or Green Book or I don't know, like Nomadland or Coda. I feel like there have been some real stinkers lately. But I think it would have kind of. I don't like Nomadland, but I think I don't know if I'd group that in with the like. Yeah, there's a difference between like those like misguided, like very. Like Crash is a different bad Oscar movie than yeah, that's fair. I don't know, I'm trying to like Around the World in 80 Days. I think that's just kind of like a dumb movie. Crash is very it's like, emblematic of like the Academy trying to like we're making a statement about how important it is to acknowledge race relations or like trying to like bullshit. Make a social commentary thing. Mm-hmm. And if Emilia Perez had won, it would have instantly become one of those movies where it's like, oh yeah, that year. Yeah, it was nice. It would have been overshadowed by what should have won. Same with like Brokeback Mountain versus Crash, you know? Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, that's I was like thinking that it's either like when it got down to Oscar night, I was like, the ones that I thought were the front runners, like Emilia Perez was not in that group anymore. But it was like if it was like the potential of like being a really memorable Best Picture win for being an awful movie, like one of the really bad ones, or
one of the better ones because, again, I really, really liked Honora. I feel like any of the other ones in competition, if it was like Honora or The Substance, I'd be like, oh, sweet, that's a really good, really cool, like, Best Picture win. Everything else, except Emilia Perez and, like, Wicked, would have been like, you know what, that's, like, your average Best Picture. Like, yep, that's an Oscars movie.
Yeah.
Not to say that I didn't still really... there was a couple others I really liked. Like, I'm Still Here and Nickel Boys were both pretty good, too. Everything else was just like, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of waking up.
Oh, there you go.
Good timing, Luigi. Welcome back, ladies and gents, to another episode of There Will Be Duds. This is episode 174, and I am your co-host, TJ, and with me
as always, I am Nick.
And as always, we watched a movie. That movie this week being Waking Ned Devine from 1998, directed by Kirk Jones. It is set on a small island in Ireland, in the town of Tullymore, and somebody in town wins the lotto. Some of the guys, so these older men in the village, try to figure out who it is. They find out it's the winner had a heart attack from the shock of winning and died. So one of them poses as the dead man so that they can claim the reward money, and they have to kind of loop the entire town in on the scheme to get it past the guy coming to like check on the claim, whatever thing. It's a big fraud scheme where they're taking money from this dead guy. I don't know. I thought this is it's a really simple thing. I don't know. I'm having such a hard time describing it, but that's basically it. And yeah, it's this is I think this episode will come out like right after St. Patrick's Day. So that was kind of the idea with picking this one.
Yeah.
Sorta. Yeah, it's one of my wife's favorites, and she wanted.
Did she watch it with you?
She requested it. Yeah, she did.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was the second time. Like, watching it, I barely remembered anything about it. I remembered like that general gist, but I was like, I still was like, okay, this man. There were so many times where I was like, wait, okay, so is this? It was mostly with the with like the younger. I mean, younger relative to the old men. The younger guys with like the girl Maggie.
Yeah. Pig Finn.
Yeah, Pig Finn. And then there was like the other guy that was trying to like woo her too. And then there's like scenes where like the kids hanging out with the priest, and I was like, okay, is this the other guy who's like, I have that like that racial blindness with Irish people. Like I can't tell them apart. Because I was like, I was having such a hard time for some reason. I was like, wait, so which one is I could tell like Pig Finn, but like all the other like adults.
There were a couple of guys that kind of had like a swoopy hairstyle. Yeah. I was like, you look kind of like this other guy.
I think that's what I'm thinking. Like the swoopy haired guys, just like normal looking dudes. And they're all talking to Maggie or her kid and stuff. I'm like, are all these guys trying to do it? Are they the same guy? But yeah.
It feels like a Smurfs situation where she's like the only young female around, so everyone's just
basically
like, hey, Maggie, what's going on? How's it going, Maggie? And she's like, geez, get away from me.
Yeah.
Like, batting them all off with a stick.
Yeah.
Because I think other than, I guess, Maggie and Pig Finn, everyone else in this movie is like over 50 at the very least.
Yeah, at the very least, yeah.
Which is something that I don't know, I found kind of charming about it. It's nice to see like older people like being active and doing like kind of like physical comedy a little bit, because the two leads, Ian Bannon and David Kelly, who I had not seen in anything save for the Willy Wonka movie from like 2000, the Charlie and Chocolate Factory, the Tim Burton one.
Right.
Which it's funny because he looks old in that, and then it's just like he looks. Well, I guess it was. You know, for some reason in my mind, I kept thinking that this movie was from the 80s. It's 98. So the difference between this, it's like
7 years.
Yeah. So I was like, damn, he did Willy Wonka like 15 years later. The timing is a little bit, So it's not as like, the gap isn't as wide as I thought that it was. But I thought their friendship was really entertaining and charming. Yeah. And like the sort of like because I think really early on you see them like riding on the motorcycle together. Like, I don't know, it's just it's a very cute old man relationship.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I like those. Also, I like the maybe it's just maybe it's just the ones that I've seen or whatever. But I feel like it's like a subgenre of British movies where it's like a movie set in Ireland or set in Ireland that's in like just like a small island town, and it's just like that town and those people, and it's just kind of like a little, I guess, slice of life thing. But it's like it always feels so. Ireland's just such an interesting place to me because it seems so detached. Because it's like I was like, what do these people do? It's like this because there are places like that, like all over. That are just like little villages of like 100 or less people, just kind of chilling. Not much to do, you know?
I mean, it's like a movie like this, or like a movie like Banshees of Inisherin.
That's another obvious,
It's like if you were to remove like cars and motorcycles from this movie, they could like fit in the same time period almost.
Yeah,
like,
basically.
I mean, obviously, like they have like they have like some technology, but it's like in terms of like how they live their lives, they're not that far off from like a movie like Banshees, which was I think was set in like the 20s or 30s or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. No, that was like the other like big one I was thinking of that has a kind of similar vibe where it almost seems like fantasy. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, some of the shots of like the rolling hills and like the landscapes. Yeah, and especially like the final shot where it's like kind of like the helicopter shot or whatever, and like you just see how big this like little like jut into the ocean is, you know.
Yeah.
But it's also like, again, I feel similarly to how I felt when we did Withnail and I, which I think Withnail and I was a little bit more grimy and gross.
Yeah,
but I
kind of thought of that too.
This is cozy. I would not hate like taking a little visit here and like, I don't know. I'm envious of like pub culture of just everyone living in the same town and just like we all go at 5 o'clock. We go down there and we have a pint of Guinness and we just shoot the shit and talk.
Especially with the inclusion of the that like storyline with the younger people, Maggie and her beaux. It reads a lot like a stage play. It kind of feels like that, and like an ensemble piece. I don't know. Made me think of that, and then well, it's only at the beginning. I was gonna say that it's weird that there's like a narration that opens the movie, but like that's it. But it also feels very much like the narration in particular at the beginning, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is kind of what that made me think of. So yeah, stage play or a book or something. I don't know. Just kind of the structure of it and like all the various characters.
You could easily adapt it to a stage play. Like I feel like every set piece would be like the dining room where they're like all having dinner when they're trying to figure out who the winner is. And it's just like, I don't know, everything is kind of like one, not like one location, but all the scenes are kind of like, we're in this spot and then we're in this spot, and you could easily translate that to to a stage play, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like I got tricked a little bit by the opening sequence of this movie, which is obviously the point, because the very, very beginning, he's like watching the TV.
Yeah.
And it's a very dumb joke. It's a very like it's not like a street joke, like, oh, a guy walks into a bar type thing. Mm-hmm. But it's like I can imagine someone telling this joke where it's just like a guy sits at home and he's watching the lottery and he says, oh, the first number is a 7, and then the second number is, and then she comes into the room.
Have we won? No, but it got me apple tart protein now, didn't it?
I was like, oh shit, is this how this movie starts? I was kind of getting chills, like, oh man, their lives are about to be changed. And then he starts ripping up the ticket, and I'm like, oh shit, it got me. It tricked me. And I had to remember the premise of the movie. It's like, oh yeah, duh.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's funny, like, speaking of like the premise in general or whatever, that like it's about them, like, just the way that it happens is very kind of like it really takes its time with like the actual plot, because the movie's more concerned with just like, spending time with the characters or whatever. But then there's eventually you get to this whole buildup of like, okay, so Michael's gonna impersonate Ned, but this guy's gonna come back and he's gonna check on us, and he's gonna have to like vet him or whatever or something, and so I guess we're gonna have to like bring everybody in on the town, or everybody in the town in on it, and they have that big meeting where they're like, okay, this is what's gonna happen. We need everybody in on this, or else we're going to jail. And then they're like, they had like everybody line up and sign the paper and agree to it, whatever. And then like it finally gets to it, and they're at the funeral, and the guy shows up, and then it like cuts to them like at the like leaving the bar like later, like at the whatever you call that after the funeral, the the wake or whatever. And then he's just like, oh no, everybody says you're Ned, so you're good. Like you kind of expect a sort of like maybe a series of events where
him going around and like asking,
and somebody's like, oh, that's my Ned, and like, or there's like a few like mishaps, or like almost he almost finds out, but it totally skips over. It's just like, no, you're all good. Have a good day.
Yeah, he was like so moved by the funeral speech that he's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, what reason would you have to lie? Because it did almost feel like they were going to tee that up a little bit, because during the scene when they were like taking names in the book, like everyone basically agreeing to it, because that was like the condition, was that like we're only going to go along with this ruse if everyone in the town agrees to like play along. And so he was like, Jackie was like, everybody needs to come to my house by sundown tomorrow and sign your name in this book. And one of the women in the town,
I can't think the witch.
She whatever. No. This is a different one.
Oh, okay.
She's the one that she's like, I have one stipulation, and then she whispers in Jackie's ear.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, you have a date with her like next Friday night.
Yeah.
But she calls him Mike. Like, where he's like, all right, now you're gonna call me Ned, and she's like, oh, you got it, Mike. Like, she like, and I was like, oh, is she gonna? Is there? I was waiting for that to like pay off, like, oh, she's gonna slip up in front of this guy.
Yeah,
but they just kind of skip past it.
They do like, oh, Mike, oh, that's just what we call him. We just call Ned Mike sometimes, or something like that. Yeah, it's really like not concerned with a lot of the drama, because then even with the whole side story with Maggie and the guys or whatever, you see like a couple bits of them like, well, I guess it's almost played more like comedic than anything, where they're like, oh, I love you too, but you stink. And then it's like, it's kind of wrapped up at the end with her just being like, all right, well, now we're rich, so hey, I love you now. But then I was so, the one thing, they could have just not had the lines in there, but it kind of made me sad that, like, when she's like, and no more pigs. And then he says, no more pigs. It's like, bitch, if you really loved him, you would just accept him, pigs and all.
After a while, after you start to smell like it too, neither of you will notice.
Yeah, exactly.
So just like, who cares? Just deal with it.
And like,
what's he gonna do with the pigs?
I know. What is he gonna do with the pigs? Yeah. Because like she goes to him earlier and he talks about how he's like attached to him and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, like he felt vindicated in that one scene where she like kind of comes around and he's like, I don't know, I saw you hanging out with that other guy, so I'll just hang out with my pigs then. And it's like, pigs will never leave me.
Yeah. I did find myself kind of in a similar vein to that. Like I had a lot of like, I don't know, I kept like sort of nitpicking, like questioning like certain bits about it, like when he gives that speech at Ned's funeral and he's like, Michael's my great friend and blah blah blah, and I was like, is he talking about Ned here? Because like he had the eulogy for Ned. I know that he's like kind of improvising or whatever, obviously. Like, is this for Ned or is this for Michael? And she said that it's for Michael, and I was like, yeah, that's what I figured.
That's how I read that scene.
That's what I figured, but I was still like, well, that's kind of shitty for Ned still. That like this is still his funeral. Like,
well, he very conveniently didn't have any family, so it's not like there were any family members there to be offended on his behalf. And there's like a moral dubiousness to this movie where it's like, I feel like the movie like kind of cuts the characters a lot of like moral checks where it's just like, it's basically a victimless crime that didn't have any family or anything anyway. So it's just like, it would be silly not to commit fraud and pretend to steal his identity or whatever. And then of course the one character who, I don't know if you necessarily call her moral because she wanted to extort them, just like a different type of extortion, is the witch. What Kitty is her name?
That sounds right. Yeah. Which
she gets like in the moral sense of like the movie's morals, cosmic justice.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't believe it. She gets okay. So like I'm just gonna bring it back because this was a pretty big laugh out of me.
I figured.
Where like they're at the pub and they're like, oh, I didn't see Kitty today. Do you think she's gonna like go and tell on the lottery board and get us all arrested or whatever? And they're like, they kind of do that thing where they're like, what's she gonna do? Roll her scooter down there? And then hard cut to her rolling her scooter on the road, like with the triumphant music playing. And then eventually she gets up, which I think is like kind of a reveal. You're like, oh shit, she can walk this whole time. Yeah. And she goes to the phone booth and she's literally about to call the lottery board on them. Which then I feel like even there's like another secondary like layer of morality where like you almost think that the lottery observer guy is gonna hit. He's driving and he sneezes, which is like another thing that they've brought up a few times, like as a sign. He sneezes, so you're like, oh shit, he's gonna hit the phone booth. He swerves out of the way, but then he swerves into the bus that the Reverend is driving, and then the Reverend hits the phone booth, and she goes flying off the side of the cliff.
Yeah.
And it's like basically the movie's endorsement of everything that the two guys have been doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted a camera view like inside the phone booth as it goes down,
rattling around,
and then like just when it lands.
It felt like have you seen Monty Python's Meaning of Life?
Yeah.
The ending of that movie when he's being like chased by the naked women off the cliff, and then he falls off the cliff and then like lands in his like coffin.
Yeah,
but it was like the way that it's shot,
right.
he just goes.
Yeah,
that's like what it looked like to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. That was another like I was like I wasn't sure how it was gonna resolve itself until she like got in the phone booth, and then you see the guy driving. I was like, okay, obviously that's what's gonna happen. But when she like gets out and she like is like kicking her scooter and trying to get it to move, I was thinking like with that like big like wide shot, it would have been great if it just like exploded.
I'm thinking the.
I was thinking like Final Destination 2 type, just
yeah, it just blows up on her.
Yeah. But then the other thing I was thinking of where I was like, again, I'm acknowledging that this is me like being like nitpicky and maybe putting too much thought into it or whatever. That like splitting that lottery money with all those people in the town is like you're playing a dangerous game because, and I don't know how exactly where this would fall, or exactly how their taxes work on that. But the lottery guy like mentions that you got to be smart with it. But like, yeah, come taxes, like that's like what happens to a lot of people over here with the lottery is like they win it and then you get taxed out the ass, and you like you basically have to pay like a shitload of it back.
Yeah, it's like if it's $1 million that you win, you're realistically only seeing like 600,000 of that.
Yeah,
which is still a lot. It's still a lot of money, but
I'm saying that like considering that a lot of people who win the lottery on their own, I think kind of fall into that trap of not being very smart with their money. They're like, you got to trust all those people in that town to be smart with that money. Or else, like, who does that land on? I guess Michael?
I mean, they were already, like, buying out the entire bar before any of them had any of the money. Yeah, they were just, like...
Exactly. I think that's when I wrote that down.
Hard.
Yeah, I think that's when I actually wrote that note down, was there. So I was like,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you were to, like, follow the movie, like, after the credits roll... within like a calendar year, everyone would basically be exactly where they were at the beginning of the movie. Like,
yeah,
they would have all spent like their $130,000 on like they'd be in their exact same position, except they'd all have like luxury cars or like a boat or something. But otherwise, still like living in relative like not poverty, but just like small town living.
Yeah. Just like, honestly, that is probably some people's like dream, is like, yeah, I don't care. I want to live in a little cottage in Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would actually be kind of, I don't even know if that would be too like dark for the movie if it ended that way, to be like, 1 year later and like it's literally just like that, like everybody's kind of where they were at the beginning of the movie, but they have I think like this fancy cars would be perfect because they like mention some guys are talking about getting a sports car at the beginning, but also it's because they just live on this tiny island, so there's like no point in having cars.
yeah they're all just like collecting dust in the driveway because they like walk everywhere, because like why would any of them need a car? We got naked old guys before A24 was a thing.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
I was kind of surprised to see that.
If you look close enough.
Yeah, I need the 4K remaster of this so I can see David Kelly's hog.
Yeah,
yeah. I was a little bit surprised. I don't know. It's like I feel like oh, I'm naked, but I don't have time to put clothes on because I got to beat them home. I feel like that's a hot person's thing in movies. And instead they kind of flip the script and they have like an old guy like naked motorcycle driving, and he's got that big like stripe up his back of like mud from the wheel that just like ugh.
Yeah, that's funny. That was another thing where I was thinking that, because I'm looking for more conflict than the movie is interested in. Because I was thinking when he goes in there, the guy shows up and he goes in there and he has the stripe up his back and he's like, oh, let me go put some clothes on. And when they said that he just got out of the shower, and I thought he was going to like turn and walk away and the guy was going to see the dirt on his back and like, start questioning things. And you'd think that would kind of like play into a bigger thing where the guy starts like questioning and like, these things aren't matching up and whatever. But
this
it's
guy
just
shit himself.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, everything like plays out like perfectly, because it even like almost like comically where that guy's like, he's looking out the window, and then as soon as he turns away from the window, you see Jackie like wheel the motorcycle by, and he's naked. Yeah.
Or I thought that they were gonna play on the fact that like he took Jackie's clothes and he's gonna like
that too. Yeah.
The guy's gonna be like, that shirt looks really familiar, and it's like, does he gonna recognize that it's like he's gonna like, oh, something's going on here between these two guys? They're like, but yeah, you're right. They don't really. Yeah, the only real moment of conflict in that scene is basically after he's like, okay, yeah, no, everything. Like he's like, oh, he's like, I crushed it. I gave him the social security number. I gave him all the details. Like everything is like lined up. And then he's just like, okay, yeah, the only thing we have left is to confirm who you are with the townsfolk. And that was like the only real bit of conflict where I feel like they were peppering it in. Like he was looking at the picture on the wall with the real Ned Devine. And he's like, hey, are you a fisherman, Ned? Like, I thought he was going to like look at the picture and be like, these two things don't add up.
Well, I thought they would show a close-up of it, but I figured there was a pretty good chance that Michael is also in that photo.
Oh.
Because they were friends, like them and Jackie and Ned were friends. So it's very likely that he is in that photo. So
that is true. That's a good point. I did like the first half of the movie where it was kind of a mystery to figure out who won the ticket, and everyone's kind of playing coy, like it's like, oh well, you're gonna take that vacation this year, and they're like, where do you think I got the kind of money to take a vacation?
Yeah.
And then like I did enjoy the sort of like deduction where they're like trying to suss, like everyone is like sussing out, like, well, someone here has like a winning lottery ticket, and they're trying to figure out who it is. There was like a line that made me laugh where he's just like 50 pounds and one meat pie lighter.
Yeah, that's a good line.
That was a good little turn of phrase.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh no, you got to have a really nice dinner with all of your friends and it was awesome. Like again, it's just like the worst case scenario, still just like a very simple but beautiful life. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Because when he said that, the 50 pounds and the meat pie lighter, I'm like, yeah, but like, what does that actually like cost you? Because like, it still seems, like, are they poor? Are they just? I don't know if they
live
can
like
be
out of time. What is your job?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
Pig Finn has pigs, but like they go to the bar and they buy beers, but it's just like, what do any of you do for work?
Yeah.
Is this the barter system? Like, I'll fix your window and then you'll buy me a beer. Or like I'll fix, it's just like everyone's just kind of doing odd jobs for each other. It feels like a place out of time.
Yeah. It's like a video game town where it's like there's okay, here's the farmer, here's the bartender, you can go to those places and you can buy supplies, and then everybody else just kind of lives around the town.
They're NPCs waiting for you to walk up and talk to them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, where really, like, how many people, like, are employed in that town, like, in general?
Yeah.
There's not even, like, there's no police or anything. It's just
a
little village.
It's literally, it's the scene from Over the Garden Wall, where they're at the bar and they're like, well, I'm the tavern keeper. It's like, oh, I'm the tailor. I'm the highwayman. But that's just like, they're all just like, we all have our little roles that we fill in this little town where it's like a little bubble of an ecosystem where, yeah, they just kind of do odd jobs for each other.
Maggie's like, I lay in bed with my son until noon, and then
till some dude comes and tries to bang me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's like that scene like right before the chicken dinner where I think Michael shows up and he's like he's got like the dead chickens and he's like kind of boom, 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 putting them on the table. It's like, where'd you get those chickens from? There must be like a farmer that you bought them from, right? I don't know. If you interrogate it too far, you're like, no one here does anything for work.
Yeah. Yeah. This is
again, a beautiful utopia that I would love to live in.
Yeah. This is a Truman Show with like Jackie is the main character or something.
Yeah. Ed Harris is in the moon. He's like, all right, Ned, he's going to come in and he's going to play with your mouth and he's going to pull your tooth out. You just got to lay there and let it all happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot about that. That was kind of morbid. They were like trying to like set up
like his face. Yeah.
They were like, all right, well, was that they were like trying to set it up to make it look realistic for like the police if they called the police, but then they're just like, actually, screw it.
I think they were like, because they were thinking about calling the police there or whatever, reporting his body. But then I think they just thought that it would be suspicious if he had a smile on his face, because like they knew that he had a smile on his face because he was excited from winning the lottery and whatever. I don't know. That's another thing where like I think it's like if you can pick it apart and it's like, yeah, they probably didn't really need to do that, because like I don't know, if I saw somebody, like if I found somebody dead like that, I wouldn't immediately be like, why are they I would be like, that's a, I don't know. Sometimes it happens, I guess, to people.
Yeah.
Who knows? But it just lends itself to that like comedy where like it was kind of fun, and like then like Jackie starts like cracking up at it or whatever, and it's just funny.
God, where did they store his body in the meantime? Because like I thought that was gonna be another thing where like the Lotto Observer guy was gonna like go into Ned's house and they're like, oh shit, we gotta move the body from this room to the other room, like or like he would walk in and be like, kind of stinks in here, huh?
Yeah,
it smells kind of weird.
That was my thought when Michael's on the motorcycle trying to beat him back to the house. I was like, oh, is it because like Ned's body is still in his bed? Because then it's like if the body wasn't a concern, it's not like he really had to beat him back. He could have just been like, oh, sorry, I was out.
Yeah.
So maybe he was still in there somewhere at that point. I don't know. So yeah, they don't really. You see them do that where they like, close his eyes and whatever, make his expression more dead-like or whatever.
Grim.
But yeah, then I think they just it's kind of like put to the side until his funeral near the end of the movie.
Yeah, because as soon as they were carrying the casket, I was like, where were they keeping the body that entire time? Like on ice? Because again, it would start to smell really bad. That's like,
yeah,
like putrefaction in like a dead body starts. I mean,
pretty quickly.
Yeah. Like, and I think it's only a matter of like hours before like it starts to stink.
Yeah. Yeah, and it had already been 2 days maybe by the time they found him. I would say, because I feel like they did a day of searching and then like the next day they had the chicken dinner or whatever, and then it was the day after that they found him.
Oh, assuming that his body was in the casket at the funeral, they probably didn't take him to like get embalmed or like do any of that shit. So
seriously, like, it's closed casket at this point, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, but the smell would still, I feel like, permeate through the casket. So like everyone at the funeral would. I mean, again,
maybe they had some lie.
If you pick holes in this movie, you're like, there's some shit that doesn't really add up. Like you're supposed to suspend your, disbelief. But yeah, realistically, that funeral scene, it would have been just like, ugh, just stinking through the casket.
That would have been pretty like morbid, but it could have lent to a pretty good joke of like Pig Finn being the only person not bothered by the smell.
Oh, he's like, oh, not too bad. Not jealous of my pigs now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been such a good bit.
Yeah. I think we kind of covered more or less everything in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. It's just kind of a nice little cute, like I said, like cozy movie. I think I'm going with a 10. A 10. No, a 7. I'm going with a 7. I was just doing
okay.
Like
blink twice.
Yeah. I thought about like seeing if I could rig like a gun to like coming out of the camera. Or
yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice little, thing to throw on. I don't know how else to put it. Obviously, as we went into it, there's a lot of holes you can poke in it. I don't think you're supposed to. It's one of those where you're like, try not to think about it too hard. Just kind of enjoy the cute old men doing silly things, and then got a good vibe to it. Like I said, I like that. I like that country, that UK country vibe. I'm not as much of a I'm trying to think of like the Irish version of a weeaboo. That I'm not quite that much, but I do like that setting up. I'm thinking you could do something with potatoes. Potato boo.
your potato baby.
Yeah. Well, there's Tia Boos, which is like British weebs.
Oh, yeah, it's
potato. Yeah, I don't know, something there.
Peaboos. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, that's where I landed.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go a little bit higher with an 8.
Okay.
I kind of adored this movie when
Awesome.
When I watched it the other night. I don't know. I was swept up in the music in it and the setting, and the characters were a lot of fun. And I really do think it's like the dynamic between the two leads that kind of solidified it for me. I don't know, just they played off each other really well, and like I loved their dynamic of like, it's like one of them is scheming and the other one's just like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go along with this. Yeah, and then of course he crushes it. And then like you mentioned the funeral speech, and like I was actually like kind of moved by that, like when it cut to Michael and he's like tearing up, and I'm like, because the whole movie, it's like they're kind of like bantering with each other and kind of ribbing each other, and there's this kind of moment in the movie where he's just like, it's like, I never tell him how much I appreciate him, and then he's like, how strange would it be to be at your own funeral, sitting in the front row and listening to people talk about you, like, and I don't know, something about that, the way that they shot it, the way the music swelled, and just the speech that he gave, it was just, I don't know, I was moved by that. I really liked that scene.
Yeah, no, that is a really good scene. I shouldn't. It's like much like with all my other other nitpicks or whatever, where I was like saying like, yeah, that's kind of like shitty to Ned, but that is still like a good moment in spite of that. I guess.
The movie's morality is just like, shh, Ned doesn't have any family. No one cares about Ned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, no, you're right. I hate that guy anyway. And yeah, it was like a weirdly like life affirming movie about committing lottery fraud.
Yeah.
Where the movie in the end told you it's actually awesome to do it and you should. And anyone who gets in your way deserves to die.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. That's cool. All right. Yeah, so we saw a movie a couple weeks ago that you can't see unless you can, maybe.
As far as I know, I don't think it's leaked anywhere.
Okay. Well, I guess I meant if it was coming to your town. Because I guess like anybody can kind of like go to their website and like kind of petition to like, hey, can you come to my town and screen this? Like, come to this theater or whatever. So you can like request apparently. But the movie is called It Doesn't Get Any Better Than This. And yeah, they have a thing where they're not releasing it online and don't plan on releasing it online or anything like physical, that. So it's just a theater only experience. It's like a found footage horror thing, very low budget. I thought it was like to like there was like a lot to like. I was really mixed on it because I still can't tell like if it's fully just like a gimmick of like I'm thinking if they didn't do this release strategy and this just went to most likely something like Amazon or whatever where there's dozens and dozens of, you know, ultra low budget movies like this that are just complete garbage. And this movie is not complete garbage.
Something that auto plays after Bad Ben.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really good. I kept like thinking after watching it, like if this had been that, like I feel like it would just be one of those, but like a little better, but nothing that I would be had this come on after I watched Bad Ben on Amazon and I was like, okay, I got time to watch another movie. I would have just been like, okay, 2 stars on Letterboxd, and then I would never think about it again.
Yeah.
But it's like it like garners more attention for itself, like solely based on its like release strategy, which is something, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. Like we talked, like some of the one character in particular was really fucking annoying, which didn't help at all. Like, holy fucking shit. One of the most annoying characters I've seen in a movie in a while. Yes. Maybe it was intentional.
Because like it's one of those things where I think it's similar to like Blair Witch, where I think the characters in the Blair Witch, those were like their real names.
Mm-hmm.
The characters in this,
it was their,
characters in this, like their characters are their real names. So it's kind of it blurs the line between is this real or where does Nick begin and Nick end, like which who are these people, or and yeah, I think I said this immediately after we watched it, but I was like, if that was an act, that was the single best interpretation of millennialry that I've like ever seen depicted in a movie. When we were watching it and you pointed out to me that she had the exact same Troy and Abed in the Morning mug,
yeah,
like an icy chill ran down my spine, and I was like, oh no. Like, is that me? Like every single like shirt that they were wearing was like some 80s horror movie. They had like Nightmare on Elm Street posters and Friday the 13th posters, and it's like, look, I get it, I like 80s horror movies too, but there are some people who like 80s horror movies in the wrong way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like, why are you so annoying about this? Like I was listening to, I listened to our episode on like the Last Temptation of Christ. And at the beginning I was talking about like the Prince subreddit and like fandom and like how whenever I like enjoy a thing, I'm immediately turned off by the fandom. That's like an example of just like, yeah, I like movies. Like I have a podcast where I talk about movies. I like collecting movies, but it's just like not every single piece of my wardrobe has to be like John Carpenter's The Thing, like the Black Crew t-shirt, and like every shirt I wear is like, oh my God, we get it. I don't know. That shit annoys me.
Yeah.
It just, it feels like you're peacocking. Like, oh, you're a cinephile. Well, I like, Child's Play 4. And like they've, like actually the fourth one is actually really good where they do this weird, like, I don't know, pretentious shit that I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. And but that also plays like, okay, but like how much of that was intentional? How much of that is just them? And it's like, cause if it was like written that way and intent, it's like, okay, all right. You're kind of capturing that cringy, annoying,
but it's like they owned all that shit. So
right, yeah. Like I'm pretty sure that they just filmed in like their apartment or their house is their house, and then the abandoned house that they film most of it in is probably something that they. I wouldn't be surprised if that was just like a house in their town, and like somebody they knew had like owned it or knew the people, and they go like, "Hey, can we film in your house for a few hours?" I'm like, if every time I see stuff like that, even though the whole purpose of like my family buying that house in town was to renovate and turn it into apartments or whatever, I'm like, it makes me miss when like the first, I don't know, few years more that we had that place. It was probably like 10 fucking years that we had that place, and like basically nothing was done to it, and it just looked like the creepy, like rundown old building. And we did shoot a fair amount of videos.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Bang the
Bang
Fortnite
is there.
Film contest, that one was in there. Yeah,
there's some of Francois. That's like the place where he's like kidnapped and held captive is there, and it makes it kind of, I miss having a cool old like creepy house to film in like that.
The Camp Lynch house, like that building like that's now since collapsed on itself. That was a cool building that we've like shot a few things in now at this point. Yeah. I will say, to give It Doesn't Get Any Better Than This credit, the way that house looked run down was like incredibly authentic. And it's like, yeah, I think, to begin with, it was probably like true. That. But near the end of the movie, when he goes back to like paint
and
over
all
the
this
wall,
stuff is like, that was like, cool. Yeah.
I was like, how on earth did you do? Like, they made it look so authentically like a hoarder house. I'm like, where'd you get all that shit? Did you like just have someone dump all their trash there? Because it's like, if you're trying to like simulate that in a movie, you'd like, oh, I'm gonna throw some stuff over here. I'm gonna throw some. This was like trash.
Yeah. No, that part was kind of cool, and it was all like piled up against the wall or whatever. It kind of made me think of, there's like a bit in Skinamarink, I think, where like all the toys are like pressed up against one of the walls.
That's right. Yeah.
Which I wouldn't be surprised if that's like was like an inspiration for this movie, just kind of that aesthetic or whatever. Yeah, there were some like, it had elements, or there were some like bits that I was like, could have really worked for me, but then was like ruined by something else, or maybe not ruined, but just kind of like not as good because of something else.
Anytime there would be like a high, there would be a low, like right afterwards.
Yeah, something to kind of like offset or whatever. Or like, even when like, the noise, there was so much like, it did a lot of like unnecessary like like bangs and as a way of like being scary in lieu of like actually being scary. It's like the jump scare thing where it's like, it's not like a scary scene, but it makes you jump because it's loud and like, oh boy, it was fucking loud at some points.
It sure was.
But then like, this is kind of the opposite where it was dumb, or it was like the bad thing first and then good. Cause like I liked the reveal of obviously, I don't know if we said this afterwards, but like the painted wall, the hellmouth or whatever they called it.
Yeah.
It was all I could think of was Hausu, the cat picture on that or whatever.
I bet like they have a shirt that is
I'm
like
surprised,
the house.
Yeah.
But I think they didn't wear it because I think people would like draw that comparison.
You're probably right. Yeah. Actually.
So they're like intentionally not wearing that one. That's like their favorite one, but they're like, can't wear it because,
because there is a shirt of that would be kind of cool to get, of just like the whole
the
shirt
orange
is just
cat.
That.
Yeah.
But like they, it's like it's like really loud for a while, and then they go down the stairs, and then like the reveal of that on the wall, like that was creepy. I was like, ooh, it's just a painting on the wall, but I was like, yikes, that's because you're immediately thinking like, okay, how the fuck did that get there? Okay, something's going on here. That was kind of like the first real confirmation of like something going on. And then kind of like when he watches the video and then it shows them like walking into it or whatever. That was kind of cool too. Again, very loud. But it was still cool. There was some cool bits like that. And then there were bits where like I felt like they thought they were doing more than, or they thought they were being more artsy, or I don't know if artsy is the right word or whatever.
Are you thinking of the seance scene?
The seance, and then also the scene where they're following the girl away from the house. Just like those scenes go on for too long. It's like you're trying to be scary with the seance thing. You're trying to be like say something with the like, oh, now we're just as bad as them, or we're she doesn't know what we're doing, or what right do we have to like torment her? Instead they're just like, that was exciting.
They're standing right behind me, aren't they? I think the seance scene could have been effective because the way that it's sort of like set up is that like they light this candle and they're kind of sitting there holding hands. And like the preamble of the movie sets up this relationship between his wife and her gay best friend, who I think he's always sort of like felt kind of shut out by their relationship. Like they have a type of relationship that he doesn't have with her, and it's like there's kind of like this underlying thing where he feels he's like I don't know her in the way that he does. I don't know. There's some sort of like a little bit of tension in that relationship. And so it's like, I feel like when that scene finally happens and they're both holding hands and like it goes pin drop silent, save for like maybe the high pitched camera noise or whatever.
Yeah.
Like there's still like room tone, but it's otherwise. And like the theater that we were in was like
quiet.
Silent.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, this is like, I was getting chills.
Cool.
I'm like, ooh, this is kind of spooky. But then it goes on for like 5 minutes straight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is like veering into pretentious art house shit. Like, make it a minute and a half. Give us enough of like silence where like, it's like if you stare at something long enough, your eyes will fill in the spaces and you'll like, Jesus, there's like a shadow in the corner of my room. And it's just like, no, your eyes are just like playing tricks on you. Give us like a minute and a half of like complete silence where our ears are like especially tuned in on trying to like, do I hear something? Like, what's going on? And then cut it to like the loud noise and then the hellmouth shows up. But it certainly went on for far too long.
I 100% agree, because when that happened, I was like, oh, cool, this is cool, and then I was like, okay, it's going on for a while. Okay, this is kind of cool, but then it was just like it like eventually hits a point where you're like, and you lost me. It was too much. Like I'm
annoyed now.
There was like
I'm annoyed.
There was a good window where you could have been like effective and like, okay, cool. But then I was just like, when you catch on to like, okay, so this is a thing. All right. Okay.
They're like, this is the thing that they're going to remember this movie by. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, it sticks out and it's memorable because it's the only bit of respite you get from that bitch not shutting the fuck up.
That was another thing that sort of bugged me, was that like they had that shot, or like I guess that scene of like her recording herself with her phone, and she's just like, I mean, it's the movie poster. If you go on Letterboxd, it's the movie poster for this.
Yeah,
where
the
she's
Blair
like,
Witch Project scene. That was
yes,
like what they're, yeah.
Where she's just like, I don't know, I feel comfortable here. I feel like I never want to leave. I don't know. Like it's this moment where she's not just like doing like millennial yapping. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she was.
And then immediately after that, it's like her character never changed at all.
Yeah.
Like they still like when all the people are like standing outside the house, she still shows up and is like, can you guys see me at all? Like the like the impulsive.
She's doing the Cat in the Hat.
She is. Yeah, she is. But it's like, dude, come on. Like, I feel like they should like kind of slow roll her descent into like obsession and madness with the wall. But they really don't. Like, pretty much the entire time, she like really doesn't change all that much. And I feel like that's like a really missed opportunity for this to like make it more affecting, where it's just like her personality shifts as she becomes more obsessed with this like thing that she's like drawn to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and like I think that when it gets to the end too, and like what makes me think of, and like get more annoyed with those scenes that do stick out, like, you know, the seance, the following the girl, because they're like, oh, let's try to figure out what's going on. You know, we're going to follow one of them home. And then, you know, the girl's walking silently, and then eventually she realizes they're following him. So you make the connection that's like, okay, so these people are like under some sort of trance. And then once they once enough time has passed, or they're far away enough from the house, they're released from that trance and they're just normal people. You get that at least, but by the time it got to the end, it really just felt like, okay, they really had no idea. This doesn't feel like there's a difference between this and like a real art house flick, like where you can watch something and be like, okay, I don't get it, but there's some purpose behind what I'm seeing. When this one ended, I'm like, I don't think that they had an answer for any of this shit. I think they had some cool ideas, or, you know, like, oh, this would be a neat idea. This would be a neat scene to do here. But like, they don't answer anything, and it doesn't feel like it was for the purpose of being like, oh, we're purposely obscuring it because we don't want to give away the answers. It felt like we don't have the ansers.
There were no breadcrumbs to like really.
There was no bread. There was breadcrumbs, but
that's better. I like that.
But they just shredded the entire loaf into all breadcrumbs.
Because like they didn't really explain all of the people standing outside
they don't explain
the house.
What that is. They don't. I guess the Hellmouth is like a portal to hell. I guess we get that. The deal with the seance, but yeah, like the whole thing of like people standing outside the house, like they can't even say why that is.
Yeah, like they find some like Polaroids in the basement or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And then they get like the Polaroids of like their respective personal homes and like Christian's apartment. That's not interrogated or followed up on like at all. Yeah,
Satan just goes around and takes pictures of their houses and be like, "Oh, this is gonna be good."
They're gonna be so scared right now. Yeah, I think you said it in your Letterboxd review, but it was basically just like throwing a bunch of like found footage tropes at the wall and just like making like a hodgepodge of them, and it doesn't particularly like pay off in any specific way. Like it's like, oh yeah, that's like individual like vignettes of things that are creepy that don't as a whole make a compelling story. You know?
Yeah. Or like why did Rachel disappear at the end? Why did all the people disappear at the end? But then like she didn't come back. Christian went there, even though he like left and went back to his house like hours away. He also got drawn back, I guess.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense maybe if like it was Rachel and Nick that were the ones that got pulled in, and then it's like Christian, you know, hears that they disappeared, and then he goes back and like he finds the tape or something like that. Because he left. He like ditched after he saw the Hellmouth, but then he's like, he feels bad because something happened to him, and then he's the one that like, you know, finds the tape and compiles the footage together or whatever.
Because he's basically after the seance, he's like freaked out and doesn't want anything to do with them.
Yeah.
So then like why is he with her at the very end?
Yeah.
It almost feels like the narration bit at the beginning was added after the fact, because they're like, this doesn't really like make sense, and so they tried to do the like the modern like A24 style horror trope that is just like, the real scary part is trauma and failed relationships or whatever, where they have to like, because I feel like he's like waxing philosophical at the beginning about like the nature of relationships and friendships or something like that, and it's like, you're kind of spelling out like the thesis of the movie that you don't really execute, but you kind of came up with a thesis after the fact to like try to piece it together so it makes sense.
Yeah. I almost would have been better if they just like, I think if they just didn't have narration, or just skip over. I don't remember exactly what all that, like before it gets into like the main meat of the story, like what happens. But yeah, to skip that, because then also it made it not like at, you know, the end, the whole ending part. I'm like, well, I know that he's gonna be okay. So it's like it's not as like scary because, well, he lives, right? Because that's the whole premise of this. Is I feel like in the opening narration, he even says like, I didn't die, or I didn't get hurt, but the worst thing ever happened to me. Yeah. But like he basically sets up that he's going to be fine. I was like, why would you do that in like a horror movie? Like, don't you want to be scared and like worry about the characters? I don't know. That's the thing I don't get, is like horror movies that don't understand that like it's better if you care about the characters you watch, and you know, you're more invested in them.
By them.
Yeah, exactly. Because like when she disappeared, I was like, thank God. Like
it's like, oh, it's finally quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. It was still you know, all in all, it was like definitely a unique experience. It was a fun time. Like I like hanging out and like experiencing it in that way. It was just the movie itself, I don't know, I'm a little sus.
Yeah. Again, it's like, if it weren't for the gimmick, would it have like the amount of like hype and praise? Because there was some, I mean, I feel like most of the Letterboxd reviews are like pretty positive, but I feel like some were like, this premise is like the marketing premise is really dumb, and I don't know. I feel like some people are like kind of turning on it, but some people are like very, very glowing about it. Oh, I noticed you finally have a top 4. Did you not have a top 4 on Letterboxd?
On Letterboxd?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always did, but I change it every now and then.
Yeah, well, what you have now is is interesting.
Yeah. I like to, I don't know. I like to go with just when I feel inspired, I go with I like color schemes. Yeah. So it's red now. I don't know if I could say I did that for Valentine's Day in particular, but I don't know. It's more like I just kind of look through and then I'm like, oh, I see like 2 that have similar color schemes. So I'm like, okay, I got to find a couple more.
Just the Book of Secrets.
Book of Secrets. Yeah.
What a stupid piece.
That movie's fucking awesome. Like all of those movies I have on there, like, yeah, these are movies that people should watch for sure. Yeah, I think it was Book of Secrets that made me think to switch to the red scheme. Before it was like yellow or black or something. I've done both of those. But man, I don't. Maybe it might have actually been. It doesn't get any better than this. Was like giving me Book of Secrets like vibes, and then I was like, I should do that. I should feature that one more prominently because that's such a great movie. And then yeah, the other ones are more sincere. Although Vampire's Kiss is like halfway.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to love about that one. And then Rear Window, yeah, probably actually one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And then Bad Black that's another one of the Hollywood ones.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
But I love that poster. I think it's such a like a badass poster for just just a Hollywood movie. Right. That's when they have on their website. You can buy like the it's like on like actual canvas. I think it's like a couple $100, but you can buy that like the original.
Oh,
like,
that's kind of sick.
Yeah. If I had some money to throw at it, I would legitimately like consider buying that because that would be cool to have like a Hollywood original like that.
Yeah. All the way from Uganda.
Yeah. And speaking of good movies, we are rolling into we're doing this again. We're giving another shot. I don't know why I said it like that. We're doing another dud month.
Oops, all duds.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, this will be great. So we're just rolling in this.
And we're going back to weekly too, so there'll be 4 for the month of April.
Yes. 4 or is it 5? It might be 4.
Oh, there's 5.
5.
Oh, there's 5 weeks in April. Oh man.
But yeah, weekly for this. So
yes.
The first one kicking off the dud month for this year is from 2007, directed by Brian Robbins, Norbit.
Oh.
I saw you going to Google and then you were like, oh no, I know that one.
Oh man. Oh, what a hell of a start. Hell of a kickoff.
Yeah, we'll start. Have you seen this one?
No.
Okay. I haven't either. Sweet. So, watch Norbit before next week's episode. I think it'll be 2 weeks from now, from when this episode comes out, but then they'll be weekly. Whatever. Watch it before the next episode if you don't want to be spoiled for it. These episodes come out on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube in video form, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I am your nude motorcycle riding old man, but I stand up when I ride, so you're gonna see it. And with me as always.
Hell yeah. As always, I always go to the IMDb quotes for this one just to see if there's anything. As always, I survived all those storms just to be washed away by a few plastic lottery balls. I don't know.
That's a good line too.
Hey, and I'm Nick.
Top of the morning.
Top of the morning to you.